He is going to be the most powerful man alive.
Power without judgment is just a disaster waiting for the right moment. That is what I am here for.
And if he has both?
Then the realm had better be ready. Because we were not gentle people, and we did not raise a gentle son.
What if Jon Snow was the true-born son of King Robert Baratheon and Lyanna Stark? Let's explore this alternate timeline together in the video. The tourney at Harrenhal ends the way all tourneys end, with dust and departure, and lords riding home carrying whatever they arrived with, plus whatever they picked up along the way. The silver-haired prince crowns the wrong woman, and the wrong woman stands on a balcony that night holding the roses and trying to understand the weight of them. And that is where Robert Baratheon finds her. Not because he planned to, but because both of them had needed air at the same moment, and the same balcony was the one available. He does not charm her. He finds her holding the crown and staring at it, and he tells her he is sorry, plainly, without any performance behind it, and she is so disarmed by the plainness of it that she listens. Then she answers. By the time the moon has moved a quarter of the sky, they are still talking. The boy, this world will remember by many names, is conceived within a lawful northern marriage, and the name some might have called him, Snow, is never truly his in this world. A year of letters follows. He writes from Storm's End and she writes from Winterfell, clumsy and honest both. And honesty between two people who are ready for it turns out to be enough. By the autumn, when Lord Rickard arranges a visit, something real has grown between them, and both of them can feel it. It is Robert who asks first, standing before the heart tree in the Winterfell godswood, in the cold and the dark.
I want to marry you, here, tonight, before this tree and the old gods and your brother and Howland Reed and any other witness you name. No septons, no arrangements, no lords of the south deciding what we owe the realm. I know what my reputation is, and I will not insult you by pretending it is not mostly earned, because you are too sharp to believe that, and I have too much respect for you to try. What I am asking you is whether you think I am capable of being different than those stories. Not the man who woke up in 3 strangers' beds before you knew his name. The man who has been writing you honest letters for a year because he does not know how to be dishonest with the one person in the world who seems to actually want to know who he is.
You wrote about your parents, about what it was like when they drowned, and you arrived at the Eyrie, and Jon Arryn did not know what to do with you, and you did not know what to do with yourself, and so you just got very loud for 10 years and hoped nobody would notice. Most men will not say that to anyone, and most men who would say it to a woman are saying it to impress her. You were not trying to impress me. You were just trying to be honest because you thought I might be able to hear it.
You were the only person I had ever met who seemed to actually want honesty instead of performance. I have spent 20 years performing at being brave and strong and cheerful and unconcerned. After a while, you lose track of what you are performing and what was actually you. You reminded me there was a difference.
You have a bastard daughter in the Vale.
I do, and I will not hide her. Her name is Maya, and she is mine, and I will provide for her and acknowledge her for as long as I live. I am not asking you to pretend I was someone different before I knew you. I am asking whether you believe, based on a year of honest letters and everything you have seen of me, that I am capable of being the kind of man you would want to be bound to.
My father is going to say we need the sept ceremony to satisfy southern law.
Then we do it again in the spring, with a septon and all the lords watching, if that is what it takes. But I want the real one first, the one the old gods see. The one that means something to me, standing in this godswood with the tree as our witness, and nobody else's politics anywhere near it.
Benjen is standing right there, and he has opinions he is not saying.
His opinions can survive one night. Do you have any you are not saying?
Lyanna is quiet for a moment. The weirwood moves in the wind above them, and the carved face drips red against the white bark.
I think you are going to be a difficult man to be married to. I think you are going to be loud when you should be quiet, and certain when you should doubt yourself. And you are going to make me angry on a regular basis. I also think that is true of me in the other direction. And I think you are the first person I have ever met who would not try to make me smaller to make himself more comfortable. So yes, here, before these gods and whatever Benjen is thinking, I will marry you.
Benjen Stark is present, barely 17, wearing his opinion openly on his face. He cannot quite keep it to himself.
Lyanna, you are deciding the rest of your life in a godswood at midnight. Father is going to lose his mind.
Father brought me here specifically to spend time with Robert. He wanted this. He just wanted it with more paperwork and a septon involved.
Robert has a bastard daughter he acknowledges in the most convenient terms.
Her name is Maya. She lives in the Vale, and she is mine, and I will provide for her and acknowledge her for the rest of my life. I will not pretend she does not exist to make a marriage easier. What I can tell you is that I have never wanted to be married before in my life, and I have been writing your sister honest letters for a year, and standing here tonight asking for this is the most certain I have been about anything since I was 20. I know that is not especially reassuring from a man with my history. I am asking you to take it as evidence of a direction.
And if the direction changes?
Then I deserve everything that follows, which would include your sister, and I have some sense of what that would involve.
Benjen, stand there and witness this. That is what you came for.
Howland Reed stands near the tree roots, quiet as groundwater. Before the heart tree and the open sky, Robert Baratheon and Lyanna Stark speak the old words, and when the words are done, they are husband and wife. Before every law the North has ever kept, and every god the Starks have ever served. They intend to announce it in the spring. The world does not give them the spring. Before the last snows of winter thaw, Rhaegar Targaryen sends his Kingsguard south and takes Lyanna Baratheon, Robert's lawfully wedded wife, from the road toward River Run. He carries her to a tower in the Red Hills near the Dornish border and stands 3 knights of the Kingsguard at the door and says nothing to anyone about what he has done or why. He does not run away with a willing lover. He steals another man's wife. Brandon Stark rides to King's Landing to demand answers the only way Brandon knows how, at full speed and with no adequate preparation. He does not get answers. He gets a cell, and then Rickard is summoned south to watch his son die. And the manner of both executions leaves the realm in no doubt about what sort of king sits on the Iron Throne, and what sort of dynasty it is being asked to continue serving. Robert hears everything in one sitting, the deaths and the abduction both, and goes very quiet. Ned is present and watches what happens in Robert's face, which is not the spectacular destruction everyone who knows Robert would expect. It is colder and more deliberate than that. Colder and more deliberate is the most dangerous version.
He took her, my wife, married before the old gods, bound by every law I have ever honored. And he reached out from his throne and took her like she was a possession he was owed. And he said nothing to me. Not a demand, not an explanation, not a word. He simply decided that my wife was a piece he could move, and left me to figure it out for myself.
Robert, I know what you are feeling, and I want the same things you want. My father and my brother are dead, and my sister is in that tower, and I want to burn every Targaryen banner in existence right now. But we have to do this correctly, or she never comes home. A wrong move costs her life, and I'm not willing to pay that price.
Then tell me the right move. I am not Brandon. I understand the difference between useful anger and wasted anger. I understand that riding to King's Landing alone and calling Rhaegar out through the throne room windows is not a plan. Tell me what a plan looks like, and I will execute it with everything I have.
The Tarleys first. I am promised to Catelyn. If I reach Riverrun and Hoster commits before the moon turns, we have the Riverlands. And with the Riverlands, we have the center of the continent. And Tywin Lannister cannot prevent the war from happening regardless of what he decides about his own role. Jon Arryn will hold the Vale. He has been waiting for a reason righteous enough to declare on, and he has one now.
And Lyanna?
Howland Reed has people in the south. By the time the war reaches the Trident, we will have her position. I will go myself to get her the moment the Trident is settled. I swear to you.
Go before it is settled. I want her out before anyone can use the fact of her to stop me from finishing what I started. She is leverage right now because she is alive and Rhaegar believes I will hold back to protect her. I want to take that piece off the board before the final battle so it cannot be used against me. Go south as the Trident is being fought. Do not wait for word of the outcome.
If I go south too early and the rebels lose...
The rebels are not going to lose. I am going to burn through every Targaryen army between me and Rhaegar's face, and then I am going to kill him on the Trident, and when that is done, I want to be able to tell Lyanna it is over, and not be hoping she is still alive to hear it. Ride to Riverrun, marry Catelyn tonight if you have to, and be ready to move the moment I say.
The war takes most of a year. Robert fights every day of it, with the total commitment of a man who has decided that losing is not available. He wins at Summerhall, and at Stony Sept, and at the Bells, wins everywhere he rides himself, and the rebel army is strongest wherever he is standing. Tywin Lannister opens his gates when King's Landing is close enough to fall, marching to be in the throne room when Robert arrives rather than to help him win. Aerys dies at Jaime Lannister's sword before the walls even fall. Elia Martell and her children are killed in the chaos that follows. On the Trident, Robert finds Rhaegar. He feels 11 months of cold fury and the warhammer in his hands, and he rides. The fight does not last long. The ruby armor shatters on the third blow. The river takes the gems downstream. Rhaegar dies in the shallows of the Trident, and Robert stands over him and breathes. Ned is already moving south. He rides with 7 men through the Red Hills. 3 knights in white stand before the tower. Sir Arthur Dayne, Sir Oswell Went, Sir Gerald Hightower. 5 of Ned's 7 are dead before it is over. Arthur Dayne kills 4 before Howland's spear finds his knee. Ned finishes it. He goes inside. He finds Lyanna sitting up with a newborn against her chest, 2 days feverish, the full stark temper entirely uncompromised by everything that has happened to her.
Liar.
Close the door. The dust gets in and the boy coughs. Sit down if you're going to stand there looking at me like that, because that face is not helpful to either of us right now.
You are feverish.
I am aware of everything going on inside my own body, thank you. I have been in this tower for almost a year, and the fever has been 2 days, and I am still here, and still forming complete sentences, so you can save the expression for something that actually warrants it. Is Robert alive?
He killed Rhaegar on the Trident. The war is finished.
She breathes out, long and slow, and something that has lived in her chest for nearly a year goes with the breath.
Good. He is dead, and I am glad, and I am not going to apologize for either of those feelings, or dress them up in anything more complicated. Rhaegar did not love me. Whatever he believed about prophecy and destiny and the 3 heads of the dragon, he did not treat me like a person. He took me from the road like a piece on a board. He kept me in this room for a year, and he never once asked what I thought about any of it, or sent Robert a word to explain himself. He used me, and now he is dead and good. Are we clear on that?
We are clear.
Now look at your nephew. He is healthy and loud, and he has been eating since the moment he arrived in this world, which I consider strong evidence of a sensible character. He has Robert's jaw. He has Robert's everything, if I am being honest, which I promised I would always be.
What will you name him?
Jon. After Jon Arryn, who held the veil when it would have been easier and more comfortable to sit behind the bloody gate and let someone else do the hard part. Nobody has thanked him adequately for that, and I want to thank him in a way he has to live with for the rest of his life.
Robert will want to say in the name.
Robert will agree immediately, because he loves Jon Arryn, and he understands debts better than he understands most things. What I need right now is to not be in this tower any longer. Find something to carry me on, because I am not riding in this state, and send your fastest rider ahead to King's Landing with one message. Robert's wife and his son are coming. Have everything ready. A real maester, not a hedge maester, not someone who learned the craft in the back of a cart. The best they have.
If the road is too hard for you,
If I stay here, I get no maester at all. I know what the fever means. I also know what it means to stay in a tower in the Dornish foothills without proper care, and I am choosing the option that gives me a chance over the option that does not. I am a Stark of Winterfell. We do not give up in towers. Get the horses.
He builds a litter from the tower's furniture, cuts the frame with his own sword, and carries her south as fast as the terrain and her fever allow, with the fastest rider going ahead carrying one message for every maester between the Prince's Pass and the capital. Robert is on the Iron Throne when the rider arrives, sitting on it with the discomfort of a man holding something that is not quite his shape yet. When the rider speaks, Robert stands immediately and does not look back at the throne. He meets the litter in the Kingswood in the last gold light of afternoon, off his horse before it stops, and he is at the side of the litter and he looks at his wife. She is thin and feverish, and there is a baby against her chest, and she opens her eyes and looks at him with the wolf's clarity fully intact.
Lyanna,
You have been feasting.
I have been fighting a war for 11 months, and then sitting on a throne being given Targaryen food for 2 weeks and trying not to break anything. I admit I may have overcompensated on the eating.
I can see that. You will train tomorrow. Tonight you will sit here and hold my hand, and I am going to tell you about the worst year of my life, and you are going to listen to every word of it without interrupting to talk about what you want to do to Rhaegar, because he is already dead, and I have already said everything I need to say about that. And now I want to say things about other things.
Whatever you want.
I want to tell you about the first time he cried. Your son. He was 3 hours old, and one of the king's guard shifted outside the door, and the noise startled him, and he opened his mouth, and the sound he made filled the entire tower. Gerald Hightower, the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, the oldest knight alive, went absolutely still outside that door for 10 seconds. I think it frightened him.
Robert laughs, and it is the first real laugh Ned has heard out of him in 11 months.
What will you call him?
Jon. After Jon Arryn. He should know from his first day that he comes from the north, and that the people who made the north possible are worth honouring. And it is a good name, simple and honest and northern.
Jon Baratheon, Prince of Dragonstone. I will announce it before the month is out, publicly and without ambiguity, so that nobody at court has room to wonder about it for even a day.
Yes, and when you make the announcement, make it from the throne with all the lords present, not a private dispatch, not a whisper through Jon Arryn. From the throne with the court assembled. I want every lord in the 7 kingdoms to understand from the first moment that this is not a question.
He takes her hand, and she holds it, and neither of them says anything else, because there is nothing left that needs saying right now. What was taken has been returned. The worst of it is finished. The maesters fight for 2 weeks. The 5th night is the worst. Robert sits outside the door and does not sleep. On the 8th morning, the fever breaks, and on the 9th, Lyanna tells the approaching maester that if he comes at her with that lancet one more time, she will repurpose it on him herself, and everyone in the room understands she is going to be fine. The coronation happens 6 weeks later. Robert is crowned with the new Baratheon crown Jon Arryn designed, and then Lyanna is crowned beside him, wearing both the stag and the dire wolf on her gown. Before the assembled lords, Jon Arryn states plainly, for the record, that the marriage before the Heart Tree was lawful in the north, witnessed, consummated, and binding under the laws of the first men, and that no septon's words are required to make it so. The door is shut before anyone thinks to try opening it. Jon is announced as Prince of Dragonstone at the feast that follows, and Jon Arryn's face when the name is spoken is the clearest expression of feeling the old man has allowed himself in years. In Sunspear, the grief is not quiet. Elia Martell and her children are dead, killed in the sack, and the return of Lyanna Baratheon does not heal that wound. It hardens it, giving Dorne 2 targets where before there was 1, and the Red Viper sharpens his knives in silence. In Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister reads the reports with the stillness of a man who has been patient before and is prepared to be patient again. He has offered Cersei twice. The Queen is a Stark. His blood is not in the succession. He writes warm letters and waits. Robert summons Jaime Lannister 3 weeks after the coronation. The kingslayer enters in his white cloak, easy and golden, and stands before the throne with the face of a man who has prepared for this.
You killed Aerys.
I did.
Tell me about the wildfire.
Every major road between the Gate of the Gods and the river. 3 years of accumulation. He had the pyromancers preparing ignition points beneath the city. His intention, when the walls came down, was to burn King's Landing to the foundations and take every man, woman and child who had defied him along with it. 400,000 people.
And you told no one?
I told every man I could reach who outranked me and had not already committed to watching it happen. I was 19 years old, and I had watched Aerys execute 3 men for looking at him incorrectly, and the men I told either did not believe me or did not care. My options were limited to doing nothing or doing what I did.
I should take your head for what the realm thinks you did. Half of it is still calling you the most dishonorable knight alive, and that is the polite half. I am not going to, because the realm is wrong. The act was right, and I will not punish a right act because the method was imperfect. But understand what I am saying to you. I know what you did and why. The realm does not yet. That gap is the problem, and it is the only thing standing between you and what you deserve. What I am going to ask of you now is harder than killing a king.
What is it?
Tell the story, everything, to the council, to the lords, to everyone Jon Arryn puts in front of you. Not to save your name, because your name is going to need years of work regardless, and I cannot accelerate that process. Because the realm deserves to understand what was under King's Landing, and who Aerys actually was. And you are the only witness left alive with the full account. The dead deserve to be understood, and the people in that city deserve to know how close it came and who stopped it.
People will call it self-justification. Men who hate the name Kingslayer are not going to stop hating it, because I explained myself.
Some men will call it that. Those men are going to think what they think regardless of any evidence you present, and you cannot do anything about them except outlast them. The people who listen are going to understand, and a true thing does not need to be carried. It stands on its own and travels under its own power, and given enough time, it travels further than any lie. Tell the story, and then step back and let it work.
You believe me?
I went to war against Aerys. I know what he was. Yes, I believe every word. Now go tell the truth.
Jon grows up in the Red Keep, and in the royal training yards, and in the Kingswood. And he grows the way Baratheon men grow, without pause and in every direction at once. At 10, he is the largest boy his age in the keep by a margin that people mention carefully. At 12, he begins working with the men-at-arms. At 13, he lifts a training warhammer for the first time and brings it down on the practice post with a sound loud enough to carry over the wall. At 14, during a paired drill, he catches a spear shaft in a clinch and snaps it one-handed without trying to, and the 3 men-at-arms watching from the fence stop what they were talking about and do not start again. Nobody laughs at the Prince of Dragonstone after that morning. He has his father's blue eyes and his mother's wolf expression, which is the face of someone who has been underestimated once and is watching to see if it is about to happen again. Lyanna trains the parts of him no weapon can reach, and she does not let compliments pass without examination.
Lord Rowan told you yesterday that you have the look of a young Aegon the Conqueror.
I thanked him.
You should have asked which Aegon he meant. There were 5, and they were not all worth comparing yourself to. Aegon the Unworthy, for instance, legitimized a dozen bastards on his deathbed specifically to destabilize his legitimate heir. You do not want anyone comparing you to that particular Aegon.
He meant the first. He was complimenting me.
He was softening you. Lords who compare you to great kings are not seeing you as you are. They are seeing a useful figure, and they are asking you to inhabit it. The figure is easy to manage, the actual person is harder. When men tell you that you are the next great king, they are asking you to behave like something they have already decided you are, which means they do not have to update their understanding of you based on evidence. That is convenient for them and dangerous for you.
You think I cannot tell the difference?
I think you have grown up hearing the court praise your father in the same breath it was asking him for things, and the pattern is easy to get used to without noticing what it is. Lords who flatter you want a reflection. Lords who tell you plainly when you are wrong want a king. Those are not the same relationship. You want the second kind in every seat that matters, and you find them by noticing who tells you something uncomfortable and who only tells you what you want to hear.
And how do I get rid of the first kind without making enemies?
You do not get rid of them, you manage them carefully, and you never give them anything important. You keep them visible because people you have dismissed become unpredictable, and unpredictable is more dangerous than obvious. You let them feel useful in ways that cannot cause damage, and you save the real authority for the people who have earned the right to argue with you.
That sounds like a great deal of management.
Ruling is mostly management. The battles are the easy part. Anyone can swing a hammer. The difficult work is the room full of people, all pulling in different directions, and you have to make them move together, without any of them understanding that you are the one making it happen.
Did Rhaegar understand that?
She looks at him for a moment, and something in her face goes very still before it answers.
Rhaegar believed he was destined for something. He had prophecy and music, and the absolute conviction that the world owed him a particular shape of future. That is not the same as understanding how to rule. A man who believes he is destined does not have to do the management because he trusts the destination will arrive regardless. And then it does not arrive, and he does not have the tools to recover because he has spent his whole life waiting for fate instead of building.
Is that why he took you?
He took me because he believed he needed the third head of the dragon, whatever that means, and he had decided I was part of that prophecy. And once he decided something was part of his destiny, he stopped seeing the people involved as people with their own lives. He saw pieces, I was a piece. That is the thing about men who believe they are chosen. They stop being able to see the people around them clearly. Everything becomes a symbol of something larger, and nothing is just itself.
You do not want me to be that.
I want you to look at every person in every room you enter and see them as a person first and a political piece second. The moment you reverse that order, you have started down the path Rhaegar was on. He was not a stupid man or a cruel one by nature. He simply stopped seeing people and started seeing symbols, and the person who gets hurt by a man who sees symbols instead of people does not appear in any prophecy. They just suffer.
Robert trains him in the yard every morning the court allows, at full effort and without ceremony, because preparing a fighter to be merely adequate when he could be exceptional is a waste Robert refuses to commit.
You are swinging from the shoulders again.
I know. I lose the form when I get tired.
You lose the form when you start calculating the next swing before you have finished the one you are in, which tells me you do not trust the commitment. Listen. A sword can correct mid-swing. A spear can redirect its line. A hammer cannot do either of those things. Once the decision to swing is made, it cannot be unmade, which means the decision has to be right before the motion begins, and it has to be right completely. You are hedging. You are leaving room in the swing to change your mind. Stop leaving room.
The drill masters teach shoulder mechanics in the second form. I thought...
The drill masters are teaching average men to fight other average men, and average men fight at distance because average men cannot afford to be close. You are not going to be average. By the time you are 17, you are going to be the most physically powerful fighter in any room you walk into. And you are training to fight like a man who does not have that advantage. You are training your weakness instead of your strength. Everything you are naturally wants to close distance. Everything your training is teaching you works against that instinct. Stop fighting the instinct. The instinct is correct.
And if I commit the wrong way?
Then you take whatever that costs you and you learn from it. And you learn faster from it than you would have learned from 100 careful practices. Because nothing teaches like consequences. But hear me on this. A wrong decision made with full commitment will beat a right decision made halfway almost every time. Because the man who commits has already won the fight in his own head before the fight in his body begins. His opponent sees the commitment coming, and something in the opponent flinches. Even if the opponent does not show it, the flinch is real, and it costs him half a second. And half a second is everything.
Is that how you won?
That is exactly how I won. I decided that losing was not available as an outcome, and I made every decision from that starting point, and the men across from me could feel it. Your grandfather Stefan called it the philosophy of the hammer. You are not holding a weapon. You are making an argument. The argument is made with the whole body, through the legs and the hips and the back, and the hammer's head is the period at the end of it. Everything else is the sentence.
And the things you lost.
The things I lost had nothing to do with the hammer. The battles I could win, the war I could win. But peace is a different kind of fight, and I was not trained for it. When the rebellion ended, I had the throne, and I had your mother back, and I had Jon Arryn beside me, and I thought those were the things I needed. I did not understand that peace asks for a different kind of commitment than war does, and that a man who has only ever committed in one direction does not automatically know how to commit in another.
What happened?
I got comfortable, and when I got comfortable, I stopped needing the certainty that the hammer requires, because nothing in the court required it. The court runs on half commitments, on saying almost things and doing approximately things and leaving yourself room to change your position if it becomes inconvenient. I learned that language because it was the language of the room I was in every day, and after enough years I stopped being able to speak any other language, and then your mother came home from that tower and I had something worth being present for again, and the other language came back.
She pulled you back.
She reminded me what I was when I was worth something. She does not pull. She makes a man uncomfortable enough that he pulls himself. Now show me the sentence.
Robert takes the training hammer and sets his feet the way he has set them 10,000 times and drives it down. The post shudders at the roots. The sound carries over the wall. Jon watches where the force comes from and sees that it is not the arms.
Again.
Robert swings again, slower this time, and Jon can see the chain of it. The way the ground pushes up through the legs, and the hips turn, and the back loads, and the arms are the very last part of it. The delivery mechanism, not the engine.
Let me.
He sets his feet. He drives the hammer, and this time it comes from below, and the post cracks at the joint.
There it is. What does it feel like?
Like the ground is doing it. Like I am just the channel.
Yes, that is exactly it. Now do it again, 10 times, and do not think about anything except where the force is coming from.
Lyanna appears in the doorway above the yard, arms crossed, watching with the focused attention she gives to things she is measuring.
Well?
He is still planting the left foot on the reset. He has been doing it since he started, and it has become a habit he does not notice anymore.
I know about the foot.
You know about it when I say it out loud. When you are swinging, you do not know about it, which means you do not actually know about it. When you plant that foot on the reset, you commit your position before you have read where the next blow needs to go. Against a trained opponent who has watched you for 3 swings, that is a death. They know exactly where your weight is sitting, and they know it half a beat before you do.
It feels unstable without the plant.
Good. Train through the instability. You planted because the instability was uncomfortable, and you have been using the plant as a way to avoid the discomfort ever since. Get rid of it and stand in the discomfort until it stops being discomfort and becomes control. A fighter who plants because he needs to is predictable. A fighter who can move from any position is not.
Jon adjusts the foot. He resets without planting, and for a moment it does feel unstable, like the ground is uncertain beneath him. He holds it. He swings from that instability, and the force travels differently, alive and adjustable, and not fixed in space. And the sound of it rings out across the empty yard.
There.
There it is.
Robert looks up at his wife in the doorway, and she looks back at him, and between them passes the look of 2 people who have come through the worst of what life offers and are watching on the other side of it, proof that they were right to survive. Jon Baratheon, Prince of Dragonstone, is young, but already the broadest man in the training yard, by a margin that everyone notices and carefully does not mention to his face. He is not elegant and has never been interested in becoming elegant. He has his father's force and his mother's clarity, and the combination of the two is something the realm is still assembling words for. In Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister has been patient for 15 years and is still patient. He reads his reports and waits with the focused endurance of a man whose resources make waiting comfortable and whose grievance makes it purposeful. The court is a Baratheon court with a wolf behind it, and the Wolf Queen is the sharpest mind in any room she enters, and the lords who underestimated her once did not do it twice. In the yard below the window where his mother stands watching, the air brings the hammer down again, and the sound carries over the wall and into the morning, clean and full and absolutely certain. The sound of a thing that knows exactly what it is and has no doubt about it. He brings it down again, and the morning answers. That's my view of this alternate timeline. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and endless possibilities, and we are here to uncover them with you. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.